So, Evermore, which we talked about
So,
recently,
yeah, little tiny recap, I guess, for people who
guess.
have waited between episodes
Right,
or
it's a
inexplicably chose to only listen to this one. Don't do that. Go listen to the last one.
go listen to the real analysis first. It was reasonably interesting. We will explain a lot better what Evermore is. All I'm going to say now is it's a whimsical theme park, but theme park in heavy air quotes. It's a walk around
It's a
attraction
park with a theme
spot.
rather
Right,
than a
it's a
theme
park
park.
with a theme. It does not have any roller coasters, which is probably for the best because I don't think adding roller coasters would actually enhance the experience.
I can see a roller coaster working. What I can't see is a roller coaster that works.
Yeah, yeah. It's for the best that Evermore does not have machines that turn you upside down at high speeds.
Yeah. It would be like, did you ever play Roller Coaster Tycoon as a kid?
I've not played it, but again, I have heard of it. I understand there were many ways to kill all of your fictional visitors.
I played Zoo Tycoon. I didn't have Roller Coaster Tycoon, but like an older boy I was friends with who was into video games had Roller Coaster Tycoon and used to let me watch him play it.
Ah, the true childhood experience.
Yes. And I just remember if you built roller coasters wrong, it would like show you people being jettisoned to their death. Sometimes outside the bounds of your theme park. And if they landed outside the bounds of your theme park, you weren't penalized for it.
They become natural deaths.
Yeah, that's not your problem. Just because they
They
were
died on the
yeeted out of
street.
my roller coaster didn't mean they died in my park. So really, how is it my fault?
That's excellent logic.
I suspect they might have fixed that in later versions. This was in like the early 2000s.
One of the things we realized when we were first introduced to Evermore through Jenny
Nicholson's YouTube
Jenny
video.
Nicholson's YouTube video, which we didn't initially watch for podcast purposes. Just Dia linked it to me, and I was like, "This place is fantastic." Let us talk about it for the next year and how we would do things if we were running a whimsical park. Because crucially, kind of want to go to Evermore, but like the good version of Evermore in our heads.
Yeah. A little bit of context for me sending this to Duck. I like to send whatever random thing I'm reading on the internet and have strong opinions about to Duck. That's why we have a podcast. And one of the
Sometimes I read
frequent
them, and
topics on
sometimes I
this.
say I'm not reading that.
One of the frequent topics on this has been my ongoing fascination with immersive theme parks and why so few of them are good.
Yes. Yes. Like what went wrong with Star Wars Land at Disney?
Especially like if you can find like long, genuinely reviewy video reviews. A lot of them are more travelogue, which is fine. They're okay. They're kind of like relaxing to watch. I kind of want the ones that actually go into this works, this doesn't, this was fun, this wasn't, in more than surface level detail. And the ones where somebody has actually gone and researched like why things don't work out, like the Jenny Nicholsons, as we mentioned, the Defunct Lands, that whole side of
I love
things.
Defunct Land.
I love this. I just want to listen to hours to what shenanigans went on behind the scenes of the Jaws ride at Universal Studios.
Right. It's the same impulse as people doing reviews of bad conventions they've been to.
Yeah. I think I have possibly spent... I've been to one theme park in my life. I have spent at least 30 plus hours watching or reading or discussing theme park content. I reckon that's about a 10-to-1 ratio of time thinking about theme parks to time at theme parks.
At some point, we should do a field trip to the best theme park near me that I am aware of. In terms of sheer, that sure is a theme parkness. Did you know there's a JCB Land?
No.
It's near me.
Oh my god.
The theme, I assume, is diggers. Possibly tractors.
Yeah, sure.
I have not researched it in detail, but that's a place that exists and we should do a field trip.
I've only been to Legoland, and I'm going to be honest with you, it did not fill me with excitement for other theme parks.
I have not been to any, seriously themey theme parks. I have been to quite a number of roller coaster parks. Used to live near Thorpe Park, which has lots of roller coasters. It has some ridiculously high ratio of water rides because it's built in an old gravel pit. And the thing about old gravel pits is they're all full of water. So it's not so much we have brought in lots of water rides as it's difficult to make the rides not flood. So a lot of them end in troughs of water just because it makes a good splash. But there's not really a theme. A ride might have a theme, a decoration, aesthetic, possibly some vague storyline along the queue to entertain you while you queue for an hour. But it's roller coasters. The theme is roller coasters. No one is walking around in costume at Thorpe Park.
Yeah, no. I have been to Legoland. I've been, however, to a lot of immersive experiences because I like immersive things and I live in a city that has lots of them. So whenever I can afford to, I go to an immersive experience.
And I have been LARPing for 15 years. And what is LARP? An immersive experience you make yourself.
I've also worked in a lot of conventions, attractions, guided tours, spheres. So I have quite a lot of
Places you
experience.
would make, wear, or see cosplay, yes.
Yeah. And I have quite a lot of experience of the sphere of interacting with members of the public, where the members of the public are on holiday and have just turned off their brains. You know how customers are an entirely different category of human beings to people?
You have to explain things in much smaller words for customers.
Tourists are a third, even stupider category of people. And it's not because they're not intelligent or not competent or anything, it's because they did a lot of work to become tourists. So now that they are tourists, they are done doing the thinking.
Right, it is exactly like me at 5 o'clock. I get to 5 p.m, I become stupid, almost deliberately.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I am now off the clock. I have forgotten everything I ever knew. You will have to ask Morning Duck, who knows things. Evening Duck is only aware of bus timetables. Goodbye.
It's like how people who I know for a fact are very intelligent, functional human beings, because I've been making polite conversation with them and they've been telling me about like their job at a bank in Connecticut or whatever, will suddenly ask me questions like, so can you go up and down the same stairs? And I genuinely don't know what they mean by that.
Right, I'm struggling to even pass the question.
It was a spiral staircase. I'm not sure what about a spiral staircase confused this man. Maybe they don't have them in Connecticut.
They probably don't have very many in Connecticut. I don't think Connecticut has many fortified anythings. I was
But
going
they
to say
have
fortified
like the
fortifications,
fancy
and I realised that was a bad
giant
word.
ones in hotels and stuff, I guess. Like, he must have seen them before. But he seemed genuinely confused about how they work. And I was like, well, they're like stairs, but round.
You climb them at an awkward angle.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain a staircase to you.
I'm adding a staircase to possible attractions.
Yes, so because we both got just extremely into the Evermore weirdness cinematic
Yes.
universe,
Yes.
and also
What
we
is up with
actually
this place?
both have relevant experience and interests, we've just started exchanging on a regular basis tidbits of our ideas to improve on the Evermore concept.
Right. What we would do if given a large amount of venture capital money and a plot of land. What would the Whimsy Park we produced be? It has no name. We merely refer to it as Whimsy Park.
Occasionally Clevermore.
But not often because I have to hate myself when we say that.
But yes, so
I just don't want to be the kind of person who would name a park that, you know?
we have Whimsy Park Step 1, a field.
Literally a field.
Just a field, guys. They're not hard to
Ideally,
find.
to be fair, ideally, a field with some woodland along one edge. Doesn't have to be very much woodland, but, some. Some trees and
Yeah.
daffodils. Daffodils? Bluebells.
Optional additions, some buildings of some sort, a pump, possibly even a bit of water. River, pond, not fast.
Right. Stream or pond would be fantastic. Standpipes would be even better on a practical level, but honestly come with a lot of fields. Any field that's been used for pasturage has standpipes.
Yeah, most fields have at the very least a modicum of running water.
Yeah, because frankly, it's a small country and the water network is extensive. Field, running water, ideally some woods along one side. Even better if we can have some natural water, but we can do without. That's the starting point.
This is one. I believe step 2 is consult and hire people who will think about how to make your guests not die.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there will also, it's, there's some building work that will absolutely have to be done, for which contractors is the way. But there are various heads of thing that will be required for a safe and happy park-going experience, beginning with a head of safety, whose job is to make things be safe.
Jobs which are just essential from day one to not become Evermore. They are head of safety and head of
Yep.
plot.
Yep. This one I can possibly speak to with more experience.
Yes.
If you are any park in the mold of Evermore is simultaneously an attraction you can go and walk around and have a casual, whimsical, lightly dramatized time, and a long-running LARP game. And if you are going to have a long-running LARP game, you need a head of story. You need someone whose job is to know what the story is and to communicate it to the players. If you have an interesting player mix, because you're aiming to have some regulars, because regulars pay the bills, and a lot of people who are just engaging for a day at a time and are more in the way of audience, like a fairly engaged interactive audience, but not quite trying to shape the plot in the way your long-running players are. But you need somebody whose job is to tell that story and to manage your cast and liaise with your wardrobe people and give you an excuse for why the mermaid convention is in town today. I generally know what's going on week to week and day to day.
But also, if somebody is in charge of that somebody can delegate to people who will let you know about things.
Absolutely. But you need somebody who basically is head of the game side of things.
Yeah. You need a head of safety because if you want to have money, you have to have repeat customers. And if you want to have repeat customers, they have to not die the first time they come to your park. Ideally, they should not even think that they're going to die.
Well, I mean, on that second front, Action Park was very popular and had a lot of repeat customers because people did like the thrill of nearly dying every time.
True.
However, that's not the approach we're choosing to take. We're choosing the one where you bring your children and expect to get them back. And somebody whose job is to say, don't put the wires there. Don't leave the fire unattended. Smoke machines should not be left out in the rain. Why is there a hole? Someone whose job is to notice and fix these problems.
Yeah.
Already we are doing so much better than Evermore.
Yes, I think this is as steps 1 and 2 go, we've nailed it. Step 3 is you should have a theme park. Like, you should make there be a park. It doesn't have to have roller coasters or anything, but you should finish building it.
Right, and I think the big difference here between like us and the real one is the Evermore that actually exists. They started building the coolest stuff first, and then were not able to finish it. And our plan would be to build the cheap and easy stuff first, so that we can finish it. Our step 1 building, the very first thing you build is obviously your main gate, because as part of the structure of the main gate, you can also have, along with your ticket sales and small desk that is customer service, you could also have your toilet block, the first of your food outlets, and your staff room, all in the one building. And then you can do quite a lot with canvas tents, but you can also prioritize the cheap things to build. You can build a bandstand for like 50p.
Oh yeah, you can mock up a graveyard for maybe 20 quid. I know because I've done it.
Right. Graveyard, super easy to do here is a spooky place, because you have the signification of spookiness, even if it's not actually scary.
To be honest, I still have 24 gravestones in my attic from the last time I built a graveyard.
Right, so we can have a graveyard for free.
Yes, we personally can have a graveyard for free. My point is, once you have a graveyard, you have a graveyard. It's very cheap to construct. And you don't need to steal anybody's tombstones from Europe to do it.
Right. And a graveyard, you can have sometimes story stuff happening there. You can have cast members doing the ghost tour in the graveyard. There should be a ghost tour. It should run every hour or so once it's up and running.
Featuring Brother Francis.
Right. A monk can give lessons on heraldic beasts or whatever. Or, gruesome saints' deaths, of which there is a gruesome saints' death for every day of the year.
At least one.
You can genuinely have someone tell you about a different gruesome saint every day at 3 p.m. in the
Admittedly,
graveyard.
I wouldn't want that job, but that's what out-of-work actors are for.
They'll be in-work actors, and this will make them happy.
Exactly, they won't care that their job is explaining saints every single day of the year. Because they'll be in-work actors, which I'm told is much more fun than being an out-of-work actor.
That is my understanding. So you do the graveyard because even when there's nothing of those things happening, it's a photo opportunity. It's a place to go explore. It's cheap to put together. Graveyard is one of the early things to do. A bandstand is an early thing to do because it's both a stage and a sheltered spot and like a focal point for things to happen in. And also brass bands can use it.
And a dueling arena.
And a dueling arena, which can literally be hay bales.
Hay bales and a relatively sturdy bit of floor.
Right. It's a bit of decking and some hay bales to sit on. And people love having sword fights. A barrel of wooden swords will keep a group of people occupied for an hour at a time.
Exactly.
Do you want to not have to watch your teenagers for an hour? Take them to the dueling arena. There's some hay bales and a barrel of swords. You will not have to worry about them anymore. They are entertained. Also, you can have story happen there. You'll notice these things are really easy to build. We can definitely finish some decking and hay bales, is the point.
If you really motivated us, the two of us could do it in a weekend. It would suck, but it would be physically possible.
But it would be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you have these three things, you can start having some attractions.
Mm-hmm.
Attraction number one, as mentioned, is hitting each other with swords.
None of us have ever really grown out of the urge when holding a hollow cardboard tube to bonk each other on the head with it. What if we monetized that urge?
Do is you bring your children and you go, okay, now instead of it being bad parenting if I let you hit each other, I'm going to encourage it.
Now it's enrichment.
It's enrichment now.
You're having an adventure on your holidays.
I just think I'm an only child. My understanding of some siblings I know is that you couldn't stop them hitting each other. You could only corral them into doing it in certain times and places.
Approved sibling murder is a vital part of the experience, as I understand it, yes.
Yeah. I have a friend who has I think one of their first memories is their little brother begging for a sword in a museum gift shop, and when told he couldn't have a sword, saying, I promise I won't hit her with it.
I believe you, small child. I definitely think that was a randomly chosen thing you won't do with it. Not indicative in any way of your plans.
I totally trust you with this sword now.
Right. So, first attraction, barrel of swords. Cast member whose job is to enforce basic safety of not literally murdering each other.
Yeah.
Which is mainly through the mechanism of corralling people into having duels rather than murdering each other. Once you get people to line up and salute and shout war cries, people are going to be much more into the I am swinging my sword in a dramatic fashion and not I am trying to insert it in my sibling's liver.
Especially if you have some manner of tutorial, which may be a longer term thing once we've hired somebody who knows how to sword good. And especially if you have lightweight practice swords, because the difference between being hit with essentially a bit of foam and essentially a big wooden knife is significant.
It is, and the barrel is probably full of foam swords rather than wooden ones. The actual cast probably have painted wooden ones because they make a good clacking noise, which doesn't sound very much like a real sword, but sounds better than foam.
Yeah, and also it means
It's
you have
satisfying.
wooden ones which you can use if you do actual sword masterclasses for people to attend.
Yes.
And further down the line, again, you can always add metal. If you feel like you have good enough safety standards to add harder things to hit each other with, go crazy, go wild.
Yeah. A second immediately available attraction which is where you invite people who would like to sell goods to come and sell them in your theme park.
Yes. You should attract people who will give you money to your business.
Right. That should be your goal.
And let's be honest, we're in the UK. We are not a country that is short on people who just want to go to markets and sell or
I
buy goods.
love right, and as a customer, I love a little market. I love a
I
junk
love a little
shop.
market. I go to a cheese market once a month, despite the fact that I don't like cheese, because I just like vibing in markets.
Right. And I want to go to the Whimsical Goblin Market where I can buy a handmade ceramic mug, a handmade brackets glued together butterfly fridge magnet,
Mhm.
a photo opportunity with a barrow of books and an elf, an oversized cookie, some knitting needles. I want to go to this market.
I want to go to this market. I don't know if like just tastes are different in Utah. It's hotter. Maybe people don't want to spend as much time standing in the sun looking at things. Maybe they're more into indoor shopping. But it's
Maybe.
baffling to me that they have like a little market set in Evermore, and it doesn't seem to be like advertised independently of the park at all.
Right, it doesn't seem to be one of the attractions.
Like again, I say I don't know anything about Utah. Maybe like outdoor markets are just not popular there. But
Maybe.
why would you have it and not tell people you have it?
Why would you not put a stall in there for one of your suddenly in-work actors to do the face painting? Why is there no face
Why
painting?
would you not take opportunity to have these things factor into your plot? You can have people sent on quests to acquire items that are available at the market
For money.
for money, or just so that it's fair, for things that they won on other parts of the quest that they can bargain, but they have to work out that they can do that and it's rewarding.
You can hide story clues in there. You
Yeah.
can hide cool little things.
You can
Things you
have
can
some of the
photograph.
stalls be manned or visited by your face characters.
Yeah. You can have a series over time. This wouldn't be on day one, but over time, because the Goblin Market would be one of those things you establish on day one, and you just keep expanding it and making it more interesting, which includes adding more things that are not stalls but are little installations. One of the long-term ongoing projects is the basically putting the borrowers in the background of everything.
Gnomes! The
Gnomes
gnomes!
everywhere. Little gnome dioramas in the backs of stalls.
A little gnome cinema where a little head turns around and waves at you. Little gnome houses that you can just see up in the corner in the trees or the eaves.
So that one of the things you can do in the park becomes look for all the gnomes.
Like, it reminds me of, at the Diana Memorial Park in London, there's a fairy tree outside because the queue is really long.
So they
And
give you something
so,
to look at.
yeah, the queue can be genuinely up to 5 or 6 hours a day to get into this park because it's very, very popular.
No
And
park is that good.
people go with big groups of kids, and what they've done is they buy where the queue is. It's in the middle of a bigger park, so you can leave one person holding your place and the kids can run around.
Okay,
There's
that sounds
like a
good.
chip shop, and there's a fairy tree.
Alright.
So people will happily queue for 5 hours because they can run around, they can eat chips, they can have a drink, and they can look at the fairy tree.
Wishing
Totally
well.
worth it. You get into the
That's an early
park.
attraction.
Doesn't matter how much of a queue you have if there's stuff to eat and stuff to look at.
Mm-hmm. If there's a little wishing well that you can go and drop pennies in and make wishes. Because,
Especially if you can get some sparkly lights or strange noises at the bottom.
yeah,
Though if you add sparkly lights to it, you then have to make sure that it's child falling in proof because children will try to get into it.
that's true. Spooky noises is easier.
Mm. I don't think that's any less likely to attract small children, but you can put a net in.
You can put a net in. You can put, iron bars like across the top so you can't fall in.
Yeah.
But that's one of those attractions that runs itself. Once you put a wishing well in a place, people will drop coins in and make wishes. And you can scatter some cheap glass gems around the bottom to make it aesthetic, which is very cool. You can do a woodland walk for no money.
It costs 0 money to go on a woodland walk because all you have to do is stand near me and say, I'd like to go on a woodland walk, and I will tell you about Jelly Ear for 6 hours.
But you can also encourage your guests to take themselves on woodland walk where you don't even need cast to do it because you can just put out some little wayposts
You can
with
just
little
put
arrows on
cards.
that say woodland walk in friendly letters, and they go on a little loop around the woodland, and that's it. That's the woodland walk.
You can hand out little leaflets that give you directions and tell you fun facts about the in-story and real things that they're seeing.
Right, and tell you all about the witch who got turned into an oak tree in there.
Trees with faces. Jenny Nicholson was right. There should be trees with faces in more
There
places.
should be trees with faces. Yeah, there should be rocks with faces.
Rocks with faces.
There should be so many things with faces.
There should just be things that look slightly spookier than regular things. This doesn't seem like a hard concept to grasp.
And a big top where we teach circus skills, because that fills time.
It does fill time. This is the thing. This is something you said to me when we first started discussing this. If you go to a park and you do a dozen things, but all of them are like 20 seconds long and not super engaging, you will feel like you've wasted a day. If you go to a park and do 5 things, but one of those things is like a 2-hour woodland walk, and one of them is learning how to juggle, and one of them is a meal, you feel like you've had a full day.
Yeah.
Fewer things that are more thing is better than more things that are less thing.
If you spend half an hour at the face painting stall while all 5 members of your party get their faces painted, that is more satisfying than a technically, I guess, quest experience where you spoke to someone in a cloak and they said, "Bring me a hat." And then later on you brought them a hat and they said, "Well done," and gave you a token, and that was the whole interaction. It's not satisfying. You got to fill the time. This is why one of the things Evermore absolutely did right was the falconry displays.
Oh my god, the falconry displays are so good.
Everyone loves a falconry display. Everyone loves to meet the owls. It feels like a solid half an hour of your day meeting the owls, and afterwards you're like, hey, you know what was great about today? I got to meet an owl.
Meet owls, meeting ferrets, meeting barnyard animals. There should just be more meet and greets with fun animals and creatures.
Right, long term, you work your way up to a petting zoo, but short term, I believe you described them as like self-organizing ferret men.
Yeah, I think I might have done.
Which, in addition to a great band name, self-governing ferret men will, in fact, if you make it known that your park or event welcomes ferret men will come.
Just appear.
Right. There are various activities that the ferret men can provide. One of them is meeting ferrets, because ferrets are quite friendly animals and don't mind being waved around and shown to tourists. And the people who bring ferrets to these things would like you to meet their ferrets.
Yeah, ferrets, you can juggle them. They'll be fine. They're just like floppy, happy socks.
Right. Activity 1 is meet the ferrets. Activity 2 is watch the ferret man put the ferret down his trousers.
Always a classic source of childhood joy.
A classic crowd pleaser. But I also have to make a strong pitch here for the twin attractions of ferret races.
Oh,
which
yes.
is just a great time. And ferret roulette. Ferret roulette is where instead of having multiple ferrets who are racing, you have a box with 3 or 4 exits. You place one ferret in the box.
Oh my god, I want to play ferret roulette.
And you compete on which exit the ferret is going to choose. And ideally, you sell to your pundits. Sorry, to your punters, different word. You sell to your punters little bits of ferret treat to try and tempt the ferret out of the tunnel they have bet on.
Oh my god, I want to do this now.
Ferret roulette is one of the best ways to spend your time at a whimsical
This is the thing, ferrets.
events.
If you get to do all of the stuff without it being animal cruelty, because a lot of the things ferrets enjoy seem very cruel.
Ferrets like things like being put in boxes and climbing back out of them.
Ferrets like being put into small confined spaces. They like being not fully tossed, but borderline tossed around by human hands.
They enjoy being the tool of gesticulation, yes.
Yeah, which means watching someone interact with ferrets sort of has you constantly slightly alarmed, but very excited, which is a good mood to be in at a theme park.
Right. Similarly, donkey rides.
Donkey rides, yes.
Established donkey rides is a future project, but somebody from the local haver of donkeys, having a couple of donkeys, bringing them sometimes, and then letting people pet the donkeys and putting toddlers on the donkeys. People like donkeys.
Snake men. There are a lot of people who just have snakes and will take them to places so you can look at their shapes. Will take them to places so you can look at their snakes, just because they want people to see the snake.
Yes.
They'll ask to be paid for this, and that's fine, but mostly they want people to see the snake.
Although, on the subject of getting paid for this, yes, we would be paying these people for most of this stuff.
Yes.
What we would instead be charging for is things like, would you like to come and have your rescue donkey convention in our lovely section of green pasture inside our park.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of nice green open space. You can do whatever you like.
Would you like to come and do a display from your Morris side? Yes, they would. Would you like to come and do a demonstration of your historical European martial arts? Which is to say, we have a stage. Would you like to dress up in armor and have sword fights on it? While people go, ooh, and are impressed. Again,
Yeah.
there are people who make I don't know if they make a living from it, but they make a weekly practice of actually doing jousting on horseback. There are people out there who would love to come to your site and do their thing.
We have said before, you must truly embrace the Morris Dancing Church youth groups.
I think we said this quite early on, actually. Kayleys, weekly Kayleys, nightly Kayleys.
The
Because-
Kaylee people will keep your business afloat, even at the point when you are begging them to leave. Embrace them, cherish them.
If every Thursday night you've got a CD of folk music and a caller and a floor,
Sorry.
the
We
folk
should probably
dancers will
explain
come.
Kaylee for our international listeners.
We possibly should explain Kaylee for our international listeners, yes. Kaylee is, I think, the Scottish word for it.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. But it denotes a non-specific to any of the nations called folk dancing, as in there is somebody standing up front with the band who is telling you the steps. But unlike like American line dancing or something, you are usually in small groups called sets. These are fixed dances. Like if you are told that you are dancing Drops of Brandy, and you happen to know the dance Drops of Brandy, then you already know the steps. The caller will still tell you, but it is the same dance every time. It's not... I know that in at least some versions of line and square dancing, reacting quickly to what the caller tells you to do is part of the game.
Yeah.
Not so much with Kaylee dancing. With Kaylee dancing, they are preset dances with names. They tend to... At a Kaylee, you will probably find yourself dancing not just Scottish dances, also English folk dances. I honestly don't know about Irish and Welsh ones, but certainly Scottish and English ones. And it's healthy exercise, and it's great fun.
It is extremely popular with English church youth groups.
Yes, because it is
I
wholesome.
cannot speak to Welsh and Scottish and Irish church youth groups. I suspect similar situation. Doesn't really matter what church you belong to. They love Kayleys.
They love Kayleys. It's also quite a popular wedding activity.
I'm told this. I have not been to a wedding which did it, but I've told this exists.
I've been to at least 2, and I haven't been to a lot of weddings. Proportionately speaking, it's a quite an accessible thing to do at a big organized party like a wedding. It has a fairly committed core of people who do this as much as they can. Lots of people, if they happen to be holiday activities, will stick around for a Kaylee.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with them in like caravan parks, especially as a thing where they can just like shove one guy and like CD player in a hall and reliably assume they will entertain the majority of their guests for the entire night.
Exactly. You could easily spend 2 or 3. You can get 50 people to have a good, fairly organized time with one person with a microphone who knows how to call and a CD player.
A good, fairly organized time is like the most autistic sentence I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, you're not wrong. But my point was that as a runner of a park, you would like it to be fairly organized. You would like to know where your guests are and that they're not setting things on fire.
Yeah, they are instead Kaylee dancing. They're all in a
Right, they've been
horseshoe.
corralled in the Kaylee.
We
It's
always did the
organized
horseshoe.
enough that
Worth
the
Kaylee.
nearby coffee kiosk can know that they will be coming at 9:30.
Yes, and they can prepare for the rush.
Exactly. And then on special occasions, you can have live music, but you can absolutely make it work on the cheap with the CD player. We also said while the early on things that there should be some degree of carnival stalls and things like this, which would include ideally a carousel.
Carousels are actually not that expensive. Old funfair equipment in general is not that expensive.
Right.
Because we have a lot of traveling funfairs. They replace equipment all the time.
Right. And I'm of the opinion that a carousel is fairly safe to leave fairly unguarded when turned off.
Yeah. As long as
So
people can't figure out how to get inside and turn it on, like in the
right,
Goosebumps movie, they're
right.
probably
You
fine.
might want to put a wooden fence around it anyway, but when the teenagers climb over the fence and go and sit on the carousel, all that happens is that they are sitting on some horse statues, and it's fine.
If the statues were moving, they would feel too big and grown up to go on.
Yeah. It's like going and sitting on the swings, but not swinging on them because you're a grown up now.
Yeah, except the swings are horses called Bunty and, Roderick.
They are beautifully painted.
Carousel horses always seem to have Victorian names. I'm not sure why.
They do. They have like they are the
Iphigenia,
names.
that kind of thing.
Well, they are specifically names that either belong to an upper class English girl or the upper class English girl's horse, and you
Yeah.
can't tell which. Like Bunty could be a person, or could be the horse. So could
Be a wolf.
Victoria. Yeah. Cupid, probably a horse,
Who knows?
but can't guarantee it's not someone's brother.
I mean, my mother and I both went to school with Letitias who were known as Lettuce and Lacey, respectively. If that can happen, anyone can be called Cupid.
Right. Carousel horse named Lacey.
If you can go through adulthood having a friend called Lettuce and not think there's anything strange about that, you have to accept that horses can be called Cupid.
Absolutely. But the point here is Carousel. Fairly early on. Because
Maybe
actually
teacups.
surprisingly cheap to get. Maybe teacups. Teacups are good fun. I personally am a fan of the chair-airplanes, but I don't know as they're quite as easy and cheap to operate.
I can never remember which one is which. I like the uppy downy spinny one, not the flat spinny one.
The chair-airplanes is the one where they hang from the top.
Yeah, the
And
chairplanes
then
is the little plainy one.
no, the
As in
chair-airplanes is just hanging chairs, but then it spins around fast enough that the chairs like swing outwards and you're flying because you're going around
Oh, I
sideways
thought it
so
was the one
fast.
with the little hanging like plane-shaped things. That's like a mini version of the chairplanes. Okay.
Maybe they're both called chair-airplanes. I don't know.
Yeah,
Also, we should have a helter-skelter. A
we should.
helter-skelter is extremely cheap to maintain because, listener, it has no moving parts.
No.
I mean, I guess technically the moving parts are the children,
Yeah, the children move.
but you climb the helter-skelter, and then you sit on your sack, and you come down the slide, and that's the whole thing.
No, I'm a
It is
big
not
fan of
mechanical.
the one I think is called the waltzer, but I suspect might be something else, and the waltzer is the flat one. So who knows if I'm right? But where the like uppy downy floors and the spinning things in the middle, I love those. I think they're so fun.
They're good. But also
They're
a
just the
coconut
right
shy.
amount of chaos. Yes, coconut shy, candy floss stand, and
Oh,
the stand that just sells like an assortment of other things, importantly including flying saucers.
the best worst sweets.
They're so horrible, but they taste so good when you're
They're
at a fun fair.
terrible. They are terrible. But when you have bought them from a tuck shop for 10p, they are ambrosia.
They have a mystical quality by which they only taste good when you are within the bounds of the fun fair. As soon as you leave, you realise that they are just communion wafers with a little bit of sherbet dabbed on them.
They're so bad. And
That's
yet so
not a
good.
joke. They are actually communion wafers. It is the same stuff.
Right, but like dyed bright pink, which usually they don't with the communion wafers.
Maybe I went to a more fun church than you.
That is entirely possible.
We sang a
And
lot of happy, clappy, hippie church songs. But we did
I
not
know,
actually
and now
dye our
I'm
communion
thinking about
wafers
it.
pink or
I'm
green.
sure there's some kind of high church saints day where you're supposed to dye the communion wafers pink.
I'm sure
It's
there has
gotta
been at
be out
least
there.
one hilarious mix-up in the wafer factory.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do communion with flying saucers. I'm just saying I'd get in trouble for it.
I'm just thinking about the vampire novel I just started writing in my head where they accidentally eat consecrated flying saucers at a fun
They're
fair.
not consecrated in the factory.
I don't know, there's some kind of terrible mix-up somehow. I'm making it happen. I'm making it happen.
It's psychosomatic.
I think there is a ghost of holiness in something that was once supposed to be the body of Christ.
I think we've just cast ourselves in the role of comedy monk attraction. having deep theological arguments, such as, are
We
these
are
communion wafers?
Guildenstern and Rosencrantz.
Oh, speaking of which, we've
Yes.
mentioned hiring many out-of-work actors and transforming them into in-work actors.
Yes.
One
A
of the things we will
magical
ask our
transition.
actors to do is act.
Yes. Just do little shows. Do
Do
some
little
acting.
shows. We'll schedule twice a day for you to do a half-hour abbreviated Alice.
Yeah.
This is representing, within the world of the story, a performance of the abbreviated Alice.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are just what they are.
We
But-
do actually, so we mentioned a head plot. We do actually have a backstory set up for this. We think that Evermore had the right idea with it being a sort of village hidden between the worlds with many portals to many strange lands, because it gives you the right mix of
Yes.
all things and also means you don't have to maintain the facade of fantasy the entire time. So
Right,
if,
you want to leave yourself space for your steampunk area and your carnival.
and also you want to leave space for Sarah, who is babysitting her, 14-year-old niece and doesn't care about any of this, to ask questions without feeling like she has to join in with the LARP.
Right. Because you're going to have some people, you're going to have your regulars, but on your day guests, you're going to have some people who have heard that this is a fantasy world where you can join in the story and be really keen on that. And you will have Sarah, who is babysitting her niece and just wants to get through the day and maybe have a sausage in a bun.
Yeah.
A sausage in a bun, you have to understand, is different from a hot dog.
Yes, no. I think people think when we say sausage in a bun, we're being funny about hot dogs. No,
Different dish.
hot dogs are an exciting delicacy that we only caught up to in like the 60s, whereas we've had sausage in a bun since the Victorian era.
Yeah. Sausage in a bun does not closely resemble the hot dog, except structurally.
If you had to explain them in a foreign language you didn't speak very well, you would probably say the same thing, but you would have failed on both accounts.
Yeah.
It's crispy, it's got burnt bits on it.
And we have to have a sausage in a bun stand.
We do, the sausage in a bun stand. And they have disappointing burgers for the people who say, I don't want a sausage in a bun, and only realise their mistake once they've paid.
Yeah.
And coleslaw. There's always coleslaw. It's really
No one
bad
ever has the
coleslaw.
coleslaw.
No, it's just there.
Right. What people have are the blackened fried onions, which are so good.
Oh, it's so good. It's in case a vegan shows up, they can have some uncold slaw.
Yeah.
Just some shaved lettuce and cabbage in a bun.
They will be disappointed. It is the fate of vegans to be disappointed at sausage in a bun stalls. That's okay, because we will also have somewhere else that sells better vegan food than the sausage in a bun place.
We will. We will have many food stands. We'll get there.
So yeah, we reckon that portal idea not bad, but it can be improved by having what's
Crucially-
on the inside be a travelling show, essentially.
The inside, the little village between the worlds with the many portals should be a tourist attraction in universe, because then
Yes.
you don't have to have people drop kayfabe to explain the tourism.
Right. It gives you a little more space to have things like, these are the Whimsy Park players. They do an Alice show twice a day. When they're not doing the show, they are in character, but their characters are the Whimsy Park players. Like, they're actors who are playing actors from another world who are doing shows for tourists. That's because that's what they're doing.
If constructed a theme park where it is narratively inconsistent for somebody to say roll up, or we close in 30 minutes, you have constructed a problem.
Right. You don't actually want to have to go around saying the portals are closing when what you mean is the park is closing.
Yeah.
You know, so you want a tourist attraction in both universes, and we also thought that if this is a tourist attraction that has historically bumped into more places than our Earth, then you can do things like divide your park up into little areas. Because borrowing from Disney this time, lands are great. Lands with different theming
Lands are great.
gives you more things to explore and be interested in, and more varied photo opportunities.
Especially if down the line you have the opportunity to play with sightlines, because then it feels like your park is so much bigger and more exciting than it actually is.
Absolutely. So your central area with the Goblin Market and the bandstand and the main gates is a zone. Your carnival is a zone. Your graveyard area becomes, the spooky zone, and you can add spooky things to it as you're able to build out. You also probably want Fairyland, which has a more youthful vibe to it because small children really do love fairies. But the reason you should have this is that small children really do love fairies.
They do.
And small children are a large part of your demographic.
Yeah.
You need somewhere that can have the teddy bear picnic food truck.
I have strong feelings about the teddy bear picnic.
One of my strongest feelings about the teddy bear picnic food truck is they should sell you a teddy bear
They should.
to have your picnic with. That should be an option.
And you should be able to buy a teddy bear that comes with a little basket so you can both have a picnic together.
Yes. A tiny teddy bear sized picnic blanket.
Okay, we're just getting excited about teddy bears now.
We are. But that's a good sign. And I would like to point out that getting excited about teddy bears is a much more economically feasible choice than getting excited about ghost ship rides where you get off the boat.
Oh my god, why would you promise that at opening?
An opening! What are we promising you at opening? A bandstand.
We say a bandstand, some actors,
Some
a
decking
fence.
and hay bales. A
Some
big top
foam
for circus
headstones.
skills. Right, some foam headstones. A guy in a monk's habit telling you about gruesome death. Come to our park. We've got Brother Jerome.
But yes, no. This also means that you can start to set up things that, again, we think Evermore did do well, like the ideas of quests and some kind of clubs you can join. Not necessarily
Yes.
guilds, maybe guilds.
Maybe guilds, but certainly some sort of factions with organized entrance requirements. And we think timing-wise, you probably want it set up so that to reasonably complete the getting into a guild quest line, it should pretty much be a day's activity if once fit in around other going to the park activities. So as a first time visitor, or as a this is my semi-regular 6 monthly visit, I'm going to join one of the factions. Doing that, having your teddy bear picnic, seeing a play, doing the woodland walk, that should fill your day. You shouldn't have time to do multiple completed joining things quests because you want replayability. You want a reason for people to come back.
And ideally, I'm not saying be banned from joining other things once you've joined one, but you want to also be able to progress. You want to be able to get a shiny a badge or bracelet or whatever.
Well, once you've gotten into the faction, you want to have some story stuff and some not
Perks.
particularly plot. So some perks. So let's say some story stuff. I mean, at any point, each of the factions should be doing something around the ongoing progressing plot, which you as a member of that faction can get involved with. So if you join the Wizards collectively should be doing something that ties into the current narrative that you could do a quest that related to. And you as an individual don't need to care that every other individual at your level of wizard engagement is doing the same quest on their turn. It doesn't need to matter to you. But there should also a become more wizardly standard standing static option. Go and collect all of the squares belonging to this Sudoku puzzle. They are scattered around the park. And then solve the Sudoku to become a high wizard.
Yeah.
But also join us for this daily chanting ritual to make the wizards part of participating in the latest plot advance.
Yes. And also, there should be different gameplay, like, not necessarily advantages and disadvantages, but different gameplay styles to the different guilds, cults, groups, whatever they want to be called. Like, the pirates do more boisterous adventures challenges, the wizards do more sort of intellectual puzzles, the fairies do much more kid-friendly, nobody's going to get injured or not be able to read the signs ones.
Right. So that you can choose, do I want to do fetch quests? Do I want to do puzzle solving? Do I want to join the Rangers and have to go and do the obstacle course? like actually physically with my actual body do the obstacle course. But that's only one of the choices. If I don't feel capable or willing to do the obstacle course, I could instead join the Rangers and play I Spy. Like, go around and find all the little magpie statues or something.
Yeah. Crucially, the Rangers should be aimed at people who are up for an obstacle course, but also not going to be turned off by the cheesiness of that obstacles basically being the CBBC show Raven.
And it is a
Because it
selling
will
point.
be Raven.
Right, but which of us watched Raven and didn't want to play Raven?
I used to play Raven by getting big sticks, and we would, you know, the bit where they push you off the obstacle courses by like whacking you
Yeah.
with the big foam sticks? We just did that with regular sticks. We injured ourselves so much.
Used to have a great game as a child called Snap Snap Crocodile. I do not recommend it for anyone with safety in mind because it involves jumping between beds with somebody on the ground between the beds trying to grab you like a crocodile and pull you down.
One of my
It's
favourite games
a
as a kid
miracle
was
no one smashed their skulls.
my friend and I would play a game where we would basically get her brother to lie down on the sofa, throw ourselves at him, and he would kick us back as hard as he could.
These are the games that children invent for themselves, which means do the obstacle course while we all throw beanbags at you. Will simply seem like fun.
Yeah, you get to join the Rangers after you've proven yourself by doing the challenges from Raven, which is another thing we need to explain for non-British listeners or people younger than me.
No, the explanation is please go and look it up. I'm sure there are clips on YouTube.
You don't have to watch the whole show. It really isn't plot heavy. It's a reality TV show with a bit of mystical plot to string between episodes. But go and watch the challenges because there wasn't a single one that you didn't watch and go, that looks so much fun.
Right. It was a low-tech version of the Crystal Maze.
Yeah.
Another thing that you can actually do nowadays. There is an attraction. It's
Yeah,
in
you can
Manchester.
just go and do it. There are ads for it, like, all over the UK.
Yeah, there's one in Manchester. You can just go and do the Crystal Maze.
Yeah. And yet there is no, you can just go and do Raven, which is fantasy, child-friendly Crystal
Honestly,
Maze.
where is the imagination?
I
Why does
just
this
want to
not
put
exist?
on the silly little outfit from Raven and do obstacle courses. It's all I want.
Although, also speaking of, another thing that should exist for ways to fill people's time and give them photo opportunities is a hedge maze.
Hedge maze, definitely.
You need a bit more land for that, but it doesn't take a lot of running once you've got it up and going. Just someone to trim the hedges. You don't need to. You can put a back entrance so that you can put your story characters in the center of the maze, and people can go and talk to the princess without her having to actually walk the maze every time. But you don't have to. You can also just have it be there as a maze.
I mean, I've
People entertain themselves.
previously worked in a museum that had a mirror maze which had a code so that the staff could get through it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because
I think
sometimes you
this
have
is
to
normal.
go and right. It is. It is normal to design your mazes such that operators or gardeners can not have to solve the maze every time, because that makes for a long walk more than anything.
And also, it's, not advised if there is a health and safety issue in the
Speaking of
middle
head
of
of
the
safety,
maze.
the head of safety says it cannot actually be a quarter of a mile to rescue someone from the hedge maze.
It cannot be a quarter of a mile, and also it cannot take more than max 1 minute to give paramedics directions to any location on your park. It might take them
Right.
longer to get there, but the directions themselves should take absolute max 1 minute to give, even if there is a maze involved.
Right.
It should be,
Right.
go in and take the first right and then every left after that. Done.
Right. Or just as likely, come down with me. I have the keys.
Yeah.
I have opened the gates that makes the maze not be a maze anymore. But that's just a matter of planning and building it correctly. That's not an ongoing safety issue.
Common sense. A thing which seems to be absent, not only in Evermore, but in a lot of theme parks I watch videos about.
Yes. This is one of the things that people often miss, is that you start talking about doing things safely, and people start thinking about things like having someone watching it and giving people good instructions and having rescue things, having life jackets and things handy. And they miss that the first step is to build it safe in the first place. Build the maze so that you can open the gate and make it not be a maze. See if you can put the hole in the floor, which does need to be there, completely behind a wall so no one can fall in it.
Mm.
Structural
I think
safety is not something Evermore has, but I think it's something that we could try to implement.
people hear safety and assume it's going to ruin the fun rather than, allow the fun to continue by ensuring that people survive it.
And we should talk about the other aspect of safety that Evermore really clearly doesn't have, which is
Yeah.
safety as we talk about it in roleplay and in LARP.
And in customer service.
And in customer service. You need to have some assurance, both as a visitor and as a cast member, that some things are out of bounds and that you can say so.
Mm.
You need, as a cast member, to be sure that if a customer starts engaging with you in ways that you are not comfortable with, which might be taking the come-ons too far, but it might also be just telling you about things they need therapy for in too much detail and expecting you to provide therapy, which are both things that people will do sometimes when faced with someone whose job is to listen to them.
Also, even in addition to adults just doing that off their own backs, an extremely common thing in attractions is to have random small children come up to you who do not want to be found by their parents and you are responsible for until their parents find them, because they will not give you helpful instructions.
Yes. Yes, I don't think Evermore has a creche. I think it would be a good idea for them to have a creche, and I specifically mean that in the sense of if a cast member finds themselves responsible for a small child, a creche is where they can take the child and leave them.
We had the last museum I worked at, where I was a tour guide, we had a policy that you couldn't leave children under 16 there unattended.
Good policy. What was the reality?
I could not believe how hard people worked to abandon their children. Like, I understand parenting is exhausting, and I understand that being on holiday with, children under the age of 16 is probably exhausting. But people would literally just go up to the top floor, sit on the balcony, and go, "Okay, bye, kids, enjoy the museum." With members
Yeah.
of staff standing there just going, "No, no."
You are now childcare. Probably a designated place to take children whose adults are irresponsible.
Also,
Is
the
a good
ability
idea.
to purchase a childminder who is actually
Yes.
a childminder and trained to mind children,
Yes.
not
This is
to
one of
do
the reasons
acting.
that Butlins, old-fashioned as it is, continues to be popular. Because people actually quite like a holiday where one of the perks of the holiday is there are kids clubs and they run like 10 hours a day. And therefore you can have a holiday where your children are being entertained and you don't have to entertain them. They're at the kids club. You probably want something like that.
Yeah. There should also be a dad's club, which is the opposite of a kids club. It's for where your kids are just about old enough to be like running around unattended, but you're not going to leave them completely on their own, like an hour's drive
Right.
from the nearest village.
Right.
But you really just want to sit in a pub somewhere and not be responsible.
For the parents of 12 to 16-year-olds who've really gotten into this weekly LARP game thing with their friends, and it's great and that they have friends and are getting out of the house and all, but you don't want to dress up as a wizard with them, maybe recommend our lovely Terrace Cafe, which will have a minimum of roleplay experiences, and also it has Wi-Fi. You can sit there and drink coffee and be on the Wi-Fi. We will tell you if your children fall into any holes. Enjoy.
Yes.
We appreciate your not wishing to participate in our experience.
You have to accommodate for the most normie people because the most normie people are related to the least normie people. And they go to the same theme park together.
They will, and you will have some people coming every week who Googled woodland walks and did not realise there were going to be elves.
But also who are like totally willing to give it a go but have just never done this before and have no idea how to start.
Right, you cannot assume that everyone has met an elf before.
That would be a
Or knows what to do
bold
with one.
assumption.
Look, I've met so many elves at this point. The novelty of meeting elves have worn off, but I do not assume that your Auntie Judith has met even one elf. Or
And
would
you
know
have to
what to say.
accommodate for like the people like me who would really like to do this kind of thing, but just struggle with improvised dialogue.
Yes. Yes. You have to. Any image you have in your head of how cool the dialogue will be is too cool. Because it will be done by people. And
You can't.
even the ones who are trained in improv, which is to say the cast, have been doing this with people who are not good at improv for long enough that they have stopped trying quite so hard, because it's a better experience to be met on your level than with somebody doing all of these and thous and leave you floundering.
That would be like having a bowling alley where you got kicked out if you didn't get a strike.
Oh man, Skittles!
Skittles, absolutely.
Old-fashioned West Country Skittles with the wooden balls.
I don't know why we keep defaulting back to West Country traditional activities. I think it's just the most country of all the countries. We've
Revived
got
tradition of
trains,
wassailing.
animal races, we've got Skittles, we've got wassailing.
As an end to the winter season, because of course we will have a Christmas season, it's when all of the little market stalls are selling little Christmas ornaments, and there's fake snow on things. Because people like a Christmas season. There's themed hot chocolates. As an end to that season, before we close the park for January, because who wants to go on a woodland walk in January?
So, because it needs to be shut for a few months so you can hire it out for expensive weddings and parties.
Absolutely it does. And also do things like replace all the wood chip on the paths and stuff like this. Well, I mean, it's a real tradition where you go and ritually greet, thank, give repayment to your apple trees. It's great. I recommend wassailing.
Wassailing is great. It's a great addition to pretty much any story.
Yes.
Also, just like people want to go do folksy stuff in a distinct location.
Yes. And I think there is a lot of scope for scheduled events that are the folksy rituals of the people of the park.
Especially because it then gives you, like, these people have come from many worlds and many mystical places. You can do many different things and have them all be fun local traditions and folksy things.
Absolutely. And you can try to avoid cultural appropriation.
You can. Which is much easier to do when you are having mystical elves from space and also random people from the West Country both existing in the same universe.
It is. It is. It also, I think, helps in terms of not culturally appropriating your semi-mystical rituals. I think it helps to be here and not in Utah, because we can do wassailing and invite a Morris side to clearly mystical activities, but not culturally appropriate them. Because they're just from here. We can have someone explain to you how you have to tell the bees things, and that's just a real tradition we have.
Note, there will be bees. There will be bees whether we want bees or not, so we're going to embrace the bees and have beehives.
Right. Ideally, what we want is enough land that the woodland walk can be pretty... So, we want a decent chunk of woods and a decent chunk of wildflower meadow. And at the edge of the wildflower meadow, you can have some beehives. And a sign saying, "This is the beehives. The bees are not trained to roleplay with you. These are real bees, not actors. Please do not harass the bees."
Yeah, the bees will not be fined in any way by the park if they hurt you, therefore you cannot assume that the bees will not hurt you. They're bees. They don't want to, but they will.
We did not hire the bees, and crucially, we cannot make them leave. But that also means you beekeepers. Beekeepers really want to tell you about their bees. And this is a design of park where you need things to do and people to talk to about their things.
This is also a great moment to segue into selling our own stuff. Bees means honey.
Bees means honey. And you can sell so much more honey than your bees make. Because if people know you've got bees, and then you're in your gift shop, you sell little jars of honey with the Whimsy Park logo on them. And you don't actually say on the jar, "This is honey from our bees." You can sell a lot of honey.
You have an evil mind.
I'm aware of the limited amount of honey that one set of beehives can produce for you, and the large amount of honey that people who've just been on nice woodland walks are willing to buy.
This is fair, but devious.
I'm sorry. We also will sell you wizard hats, and fairy wands, and flower crowns.
And time with our very well trained photographer who will put up with any unlimited number of costume changes.
Absolutely. Limited only by time, so if you have more costumes than that, pay for more time. We will sell you I Spy books of things that are in the park.
Adventure leaflets that give you a little scripted route through the park if you're here for it, but not quite sure where to begin.
Yeah. Little history of the park booklets to explain the story and lore behind the existence of the thing. Although a lot of that will also be available on the website, because one of the things we noted about Evermore is it's very hard to find, as a prospective visitor, anything specific to prepare yourself for the roleplay experience. It sort of communicates that there will be one, but I think it would be better to have little portraits of your characters and a little précis of who they are. This is Magnifico Borgiu, if you help him find his cat.
Really little achievable child-friendly quests are so easy to just integrate into the design of the park. Like,
Yes.
on some of the signs, we have put a little code. If you solve the little code, it tells you to take this item to this place.
Yes.
Done. Self-service quest. Easy. Add some little chests. Some of them can have puzzle locks. Some of them can have key locks. Some of them can be basically open but guarded by a member of cast instructed to let past
Not try
children who
very
are
hard.
clearly making an effort to sneak.
Yes. As long as they're doing the sort of crouch and run thing they do in video games, they are allowed to steal from the chest. Yeah, have a substitute alphabet. I spent hours as a child first working out the one-for-one substitute alphabet at the bottom of the Artemis Fowl book I had.
Oh my
And then
god.
trying to read the
Childhood
whole message.
enrichment.
Right.
Yes.
As a park, we need at least one magical alphabet cipher.
There used to be a set of books that I was obsessed with that had like puzzles on every page quite often.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of them would have, as you got further in, there would start to be puzzles that relied on clues from previous pages, and I could spend genuinely an entire day going through trying to solve every single clue.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Just enrichment for nerdy, friendless children.
Right. Which I have to tell you are the kind of children who will say, please can we go visit the Whimsy Park?
Exactly. They're your core demographic, alongside the regulars, who we will get to.
The regulars, this is one of the things that Evermore slips up on, are better catered to as a separate group.
This is the thing, actually, that I believe Star Wars Land did really well. For their purposes, which aren't really the same purposes as us, but the Star Wars Land face characters are really child-centered. So, like, if you go up to them as an adult, they'll still chat to you, and you can still like have like a conversation. But all of their pre-planned photo ops, games, things like that, are really geared towards small children. So you're just gently discouraged from hanging out too much with them as an adult.
Yeah. And taking up too much of the time, and that instead it's turned towards the people who are really full of sense of wonder, which is to say, children.
My understanding is that all Disney face characters are sort of instructed to do this, but it's a little bit harder if you are like a princess welcoming people in your room. That's why they have like their dedicated handlers who move people along instead.
Mm-hmm. We probably don't want too many princesses, although a princess in a tower, even a very small tower, is a pretty cool attraction. Or a princess not in a tower.
We would also like to have a fire witch at a safe distance from members of the public.
Right, the thing about pyrotechnics is that everyone does really like them, because they're super cool.
I went to a wedding once where the groom's brother was a firefighter, so we got to have a fireworks display literally about 3 inches in front of our noses.
Nice.
And it was hands down one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
When I was a university student, as all universities by law are required to, there was a circus skills club. And there was some event or other, I have no memory of what the event was, but the circus club was out doing various fire implements. So fire juggling and fire poi and things. And there was one young man who took off his shirt, lit the ends of his staff on fire, and then did contact work with it. And it was frankly the most erotic experience of my life. And we should not deprive our customers of watching someone swing things on fire around their head.
Oh, absolutely.
But they should
Watching
be
things
behind
be
a
on
line.
fire is just incredible. You should just be able to do it with relative confidence that you will not also be on fire soon.
Right, exactly. We should let them watch the fire jugglers. We should not let them fire juggle. This is my line. We should not let
Least.
them
They
touch
should
the
only
fire.
be able to fire juggle in very specific pre-booked events with an extensive safety disclaimer
And a fence. Or at
and a
least a
fence.
rope.
Yeah.
A rope and a spotter is okay. But you should have that. You should not have loose pyrotechnics in your pocket just in case you need to do a cool fire witch thing. That should not be how it
While
goes.
you are interacting with members of the public.
While you're interacting with members of the public. Just doing fire. Contact fire. With no separation.
God.
Our goal is to not immolate our patrons. And
We're
that's
going to
so
try
achievable.
really hard.
I have faith in us. I think we
Like,
can
there
do
are
it.
some accidents that are sort of inevitable, you know? At some point, something will break, and if you're lucky, it won't break on top of somebody. At some
Right.
point, someone will trip and break a limb.
We are talking about having a field. Somebody will go in a rabbit hole, they will twist their ankle, it will be horrible.
Yeah.
But we
Immolation.
don't have to light them on
Relatively
fire.
avoidable.
We could do it. We could have a perfect record on never lighting our patrons on fire. Or our staff. We could light 0 people on fire. Maybe like one year we'll have like a Wicker Man climactic plot point and put someone in a fire suit and someone
do want
else
to Wicker
standing
Man
by to
somebody.
put them out, because that is a good
It's a
look.
long-standing goal of mine. I ever told you about the Latin Wicker Man?
No, but it sounds great.
It's a genuine thing that happened to me. It's not as exciting as it sounds, but it is very funny. My GCSE Latin teacher was like obsessed with the Wicker Man. It was his favourite film.
Huh?
And we were studying a text called Sagai Thessali, which is about a guy who goes to this weird town that has witches in it, and they ask him to guard a body from the witches, and the witches, he actually falls asleep, and they get in and cut off his nose and ears.
Rude.
And my Latin teacher one week asked, has anybody here seen The Wicker Man? And I raised my hand, and I was the only one, because this was a class full of 14-year-olds who have mostly not seen The Wicker Man as a class. And he's delighted. He goes, oh my god, you've seen The Wicker Man? I love The Wicker Man. My personal theory is that this story is like The Wicker Man, and they've actually lured him here as some kind of sacrifice to the witches, and the whole town is in on it. And like, that was a lesson. It was kind of fun. He brought it up a few times later, chatted with me about The Wicker Man. You know, the kind of interaction you have with a cool teacher when you're 14. I later found out that one of the students in my class thought that The Wicker Man was a contemporary Latin text and referenced it in her GCSE exam.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry, Sophie. That's maybe partially my fault. I hope you still passed your exam.
I did not mean to mislead you in this way.
You know, serves you right for copying my tests. So, really, maybe if you'd done your own homework, you would have found out what the Wicker Man was.
But also, at the point you were doing your GCSEs, Google was a thing.
Yeah, Google existed. You could look up the Wicker Man. She had all the time in the world. The Nicolas Cage version existed. Also, The Wicker Man's a great movie, and 14-year-olds should watch it. It's not actually very scary.
Listener, you will not be shocked to learn at this point, I have not seen The Wicker Man.
It's a great film.
I have seen 0 films.
You have seen 0 films. I, however, was raised by a real film buff, and one of the reasons I actually don't like a lot of classic films is that I watched them when I was way too young to understand them. I watched Casablanca for the first time when I was 7. What 7-year-old understands Casablanca?
I have seen Casablanca.
Would you recommend it to a 7-year-old?
No!
No!
You will have no idea what's happening and be bored.
My dad got me to watch Casablanca when I was 7, and to this day, I just don't enjoy it. I don't dispute that it's very well made, but I just watch it
As a
and just
7-year-old, you will
7-year-old
not
me
appreciate
goes,
the subtle
"No."
emotional layers of this film.
However, 7-year-old me did love and appreciate The Wicker Man, which is
Well,
just
I
as
mean,
subtle and layered in many ways.
but also has a cool lighting a thing on fire sequence.
Yeah, that's the main attraction for 7-year-old dear.
Honestly, the safe way to do the Wicker Man in your park is having put the cast member in the Wicker Man, remove them from the Wicker Man before you set it on fire.
Yeah, just don't set them on fire. That's
Right.
usually a good
this is
step
this is
one.
a very normal stage trick of you put them in and then they come out through the trapdoor.
And then you set the thing on fire.
And then you set the thing on fire.
And you all sing Sommer is in.
Right.
In crazy outfits, ideally.
Right. Man, I would pay to go to this event.
This is our Halloween special, I think. We just do the Wicker Man
You
straightforwardly.
just do the Wicker Man for a good harvest next year.
You know, maybe we do burn someone nobody knows because we all be retiring that year.
Or we also have the option of, and then next week that actor is playing a different character.
That is just our standard retirement party.
Right. It's not a scheduled event. It's just when anyone is retiring, we put them in the Wicker Man and burn them.
Yes. Or we could just continue in the fine tradition of the actual Wicker Man and burn cops.
That is so much less legal than burning your cast members pretend-wise. Like, actually burning cops, so much more illegal than pretending to burn your employees.
Say we were going to actually burn cops. I didn't say that. I meant it, but I didn't say it.
I'm vetoing this plan. As co-owner of
I
this
just
purely
think-
theoretical park, we are not burning cops.
Never let me have any fun. Okay. This brings us to food.
There should be so much food. We think there should be a restaurant. Like a nice one.
There should be a restaurant that a person could potentially go to on a date.
It should possibly not be open to children after 7 p.m. or something along these lines.
Or at the very least, sort of have the atmosphere that tells you that children should be behaving like small adults.
Yes.
This is, I think, much more common in the UK and the rest of Europe than in America. A lot of restaurants, children are completely allowed. They simply turn down the lights and up the music to make it clear that children shouldn't cease to be children at a certain point in the evening.
Yes. You should only bring your children if they are nicely dressed and quiet.
Yeah.
It's very exciting as a teenager to be allowed to go to grown-up restaurants for the first time.
I think that is a you thing. I was just very silently in the corner of grown-up restaurants for most of my childhood.
That was probably not a universal, yes.
Yeah.
But there should be a nice restaurant that you could plausibly go on a date on.
Yeah, and not have to LARP.
And not have to laugh. There should be a minimum of required interaction in the nice restaurant that you could go on a date to. I think we said, Leo, maybe this is John, the light music provider. He is wearing elf ears, and if you go up to him and ask about in-character gossip, he can provide some, but mostly he plays the piano.
We also very much liked the idea that employees have a choice of lunch breaks. They can either have an hour of phone time and their comped food is leftovers from the van, or they can have an hour in the restaurant in character, but their comped food is really high quality restaurant fare.
Right. The downside of that is you may have to roleplay.
You might have to roleplay with members of the public, but you get to eat the escargot. Or you can hunch over your phone and scarf down van pizza because you are peopled out.
Right. Which I would do 99% of the days, but it would be nice to have the choice. That's the high end. That should not be the only sit-down option because there should be a tea room. This is a British institution.
There should also be at least one restaurant where you can just let your children run riot and it's the stuff's problem. Right. I don't like it, but there does need to be one because it is our fault that these children are hyped up on violence and sugar. We should take responsibility.
Right, so you have your nice restaurant for adults, or at least aimed at adults. You have your pizza and chicken nuggets restaurant. And in large part, you can make it clear which of these is which by the menu and the decor.
Yeah, people can tell with their human eyes which is a classy date restaurant and which is essentially Chuck E. Cheese British Fairies edition.
Right. And if the menu is mainly pizza and chicken nuggets, people are aware that that's child-friendly.
Yeah.
There should be a tea room, as in what they sell, in addition to pots of tea, is cakes and sandwiches and things of this
mini quiches, maybe
lunchy nature.
Ideally with a sort of empire-y expat Indian food, which is not the same thing as Indian food, but is really good paired with British-style cakes.
Yeah, that's a great call.
It's what the Victorians considered to be an exotic Indian-style tea room, and we in modern Britain consider to be a tea room with a curry.
Right. They have a kedgeree, which is rice, smoked fish, chopped eggs, and a very small teaspoonful of curry powder. It's great.
Yes. You can get little pastry cups which have in different types of curry in them, but only a tablespoon of curry.
Yeah.
Just in short crust pastry.
After a long day of roleplay, I would not turn down a big slice of cake and a samosa.
Oof, yes. There should be samosas in there.
Although we should also consider samosa van.
Samosa van is essential.
Yeah.
The good thing about having a market which people who do not work for the park come to is we can have them bring food.
Right.
So there are many food options. We do not have to consider all of the possibilities, only
Right.
the
I
on-theme ones.
personally know at least 2 people who would put a permanent coffee van in the market section of this park. Just because I'm a human
Oh,
person
yeah.
who buys coffee sometimes, and therefore know people who run coffee vans.
Oh, absolutely. I know someone who runs a cocktails van, and every time I see it at an event, it brings joy to my heart because it just looks so happy to be there. It's a brightly coloured van with a little shelf that makes cocktails. What's not to
Amazing.
love?
Yeah, at LARP events, we have a series of, regular caterers. There's a coffee van, there's the curry place, there's a food in boxes place. At one point, there was a pancakes and curry place. That was the menu. There was curry and there was
There
pancakes.
has to be a proper crepe stall where they make it on the big hot plate.
Oh, everyone loves a theatrical crepe stall.
The more theatrical your food stands, the better. Crepe stalls are one of the best just because it's so simple, but you know you would fuck it up if you did it.
Yes, I would make such a mess. I would not make a 18-inch wide, beautiful, lacy thin crepe.
Oh, I used to get a crepe like twice a day, not twice a day, that would be mad. Like
That would be
twice a
so
week
much
on the way
pancake.
back from school because it was the only way I could be convinced to eat bananas, and my dad was really concerned I wasn't going to get enough of some essential nutrient.
Little the potassium in the bananas.
I ran the same scam with McDonald's. I went off fish, and my dad told me I was only allowed to go to McDonald's if I had a fillet of fish, and I was allowed to go to McDonald's an unlimited number of times as long as I ate the fillet of fish.
Fish and chip stand. Possibly a sit-down restaurant once the park is, bigger and has more throughput.
I'd say, yeah, sit down fish and chips has just more vibe, especially if you can get the weird fake newspaper that is safe to eat off.
Yeah, yeah. And it's quite easy for a sit-down fish and chip place to also be a takeaway. You just ask people if they want it on a plate or in a wrapper.
Open or closed, yeah.
Yeah. Open or closed is the terminology we use. Like, I just need to reassure the listener, Dia did not make that up. You go to a chip shop and they're like, would you like it open or closed?
Yeah, because open is for if you're going to eat your chips in the street, and closed is for if you're going to carry them home to eat them. I have
Right.
had several people who aren't British be surprised that fish and chip isn't a sit-down meal because it's our national dish, and I'm like, "Oh, you really overestimate our fanciness as a country." Our national dish is ate while sitting on a curb, ideally. That's when it tastes best.
Right. Or walking along the promenade, because if you stop walking, the seagulls will get to you.
Yeah, you have to constantly be outrunning seagulls whilst eating our national dish. Depending where you are in the country, the sauces may change, but the fact that you have to be mobile will not.
Right, fish and chips can be eaten on the move with the tiniest wooden forks that have ever been manufactured.
Chip forks! They are actually called chip forks, again,
They are called
not
chip
making this up.
forks. They are iconic. They have a place in our hearts.
I'm very basic. I like my chips with salt and vinegar. I like my pancakes with sugar and lemon. Once you have added salt and vinegar and you have the chip fork, you are constantly at risk of stabbing yourself in the mouth and covering the wound in salt and vinegar.
This only improves the experience.
Some things are better because of pain.
Right. You run the risk of salting your inner lip
Yeah.
in order to experience fish and chips on the move. Probably like a pizza van. Pizza by the slice is popular.
Ideally, I have mentioned this pizza by the slice, but with all the toppings cut into whimsical shapes. This isn't that hard to
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
because you simply buy a whimsical cutter, cut out all the shapes, and then give the offcuts to the restaurant to put in like guacamole and soup and things.
Right, and your pizza then has flower-shaped pieces of avocado
Sorry, just
and
enjoying the list of all of the things I could think of that have chopped vegetables in them. Guacamole and soup, the only ones. What we will not have is a burrito stand because we are in Britain, and while we have so much good food here, we just can't get our heads around burritos as a nation.
I like burritos, but I feel like I probably like burritos because I am easily pleased rather than because they're good burritos.
Oh, I love burritos, but I have never once in England had a burrito that was wrapped by somebody who understood liquids.
Oh, we do produce a very wet burrito.
Once somebody handed me a burrito in like a Mexican type fake place. You know the kind I mean, the one that's just like called burrito or something and makes no
Yeah.
pretense of being actual Mexican cuisine. I was in a
Yeah,
burrito place and the guy handed me my burrito and said, "Careful, it's soaking wet." And I was just standing there holding this thing wrapped in foil, like, what do you want me to do with that information? This is unacceptable customer service. You can't just hand me my meal and tell me you've ruined it. And also, it's wrapped in tinfoil, so the liquid is contained. But the second I open it, the liquid will cease to be contained because that's how liquids work. So what you've actually handed me is a time bomb. And I'm clearly here in my lunch break from my office because I'm wearing office clothes. So I now have to decide, am I going to put on my coat and ruin that, or leave off my coat and go back to work with my shirt covered in burrito juice? This is the experience of buying burritos in Britain. They actually quite often taste fine. Like, sometimes they taste good, but they are always created by somebody who thinks that liquids magically disappear when you wrap bread around them.
So what you're saying is no burritos.
No burritos. We can have a taco stand one day if someone competent shows up and promises they know how to make tacos. I don't care if the person who says they can make burritos is King Burrito of Burrito Land. I don't trust him in this country.
Okay, but can we have a falafel wrap stand because they're so good?
Oh, absolutely. I love falafel.
I did once ruin my coat with a combination of yogurt sauce and chili sauce from the tail end of a falafel wrap. So you can have the it's soaking wet problem with falafel wraps, but they're so good.
Falafel wraps, again, I don't know if this is universal. I don't know if this is British. I don't know if this is London. Every time I've had a falafel, they have asked me a series of completely incomprehensible questions that I just say yes or no to on impulse. I'm sure they're asking me about ingredients, but they go so fast that I don't know.
Right, they gesture things, they say some syllables. I don't understand. I have bad audio processing. I don't know what they're saying.
Quite often they say something like spicy, but they're pointing at the lettuce, and I'm like, no. And then they reach and put a completely different item in, and I'm like, so what did I ask for? Oh God. Because the
Yes.
only words they use are spicy or yes.
Right. You think they're pointing at the tomato saying yes, and you say yes, and it turns out that was pickles. Okay. I wanted pickles, this is
Yeah.
fine.
I just say yes to everything and hope for the best.
It is for the best, because that's how you get a falafel wrap with everything on it.
Exactly.
More seriously, what happens with a lot of these stalls probably is, as with the hypothetical coffee van, you invite people to come and set up in your market area for as long as they deem
Yeah.
profitable.
Yeah,
So there will be, on different occasions, a different range of sellers.
absolutely. And also, ones that are sort of semi-permanent, regulars, etc., you can also say, hey, Mr. Crepe Man, please could we have some kind of event where you come and, do an extra day paid to be here instead of paying. You can set up relationships with your business
And we
partners
book
in
you
this way.
specifically for so-and-so's daughter's 16th birthday because she wants to do a Rescue the Princess quest. Could you serve them all crepes?
Exactly. It doesn't have to be just your stuff and the village market. You can mix and match. You can make it happen.
Yeah. And you can do
You can
things like
also ask
birthday
very
parties.
nicely of the falafel man, can we hide this plot significant token in your falafel stand, please?
Right. Can we put these gnomes in your van? Here is a shoebox. Can we nail it to like the inside of the back of your van so people can see the gnomes?
Exactly. Would you mind making a tiny falafel for the gnomes?
Tiny gnome falafel.
Tiny gnome falafel. It could be like a fun challenge for vendors, like can you make tiny gnome versions of the things you are already selling?
Right. And your vendors can, to a large extent, choose whether to participate in the whimsical nature of the place. Because if you are coming along to set up your stall in the market zone and sell your handmade ceramics, it is up to you whether to do that in cat ears and a cloak.
We will provide a wardrobe department. You can borrow
Right.
cat ears and a cloak if you want some. You can bring your own from home if that's what you're into. Or you can just be human Steve.
Right. You could be Human Steve. You could be Eric the Cheese in the hat you
Wizard?
regularly wear that people could assume is a costume, but you just like your hat. I think we've previously also talked about, in addition to the internal market, we should have enough car park that we can put a farmer's market in it.
Yes, so that people who are not actually attending the Whimsy Park can still come to the market.
And buy their olives and cheese. And then, having bought their olives and cheese, go, there's a cafe just there. And a nice hedge
You have to pay an
maze.
entry fee.
Have to pay an entry fee, but it's a Sunday afternoon. You could just pay the entry fee and do the woodland walk and then go to the cafe. That would be nice. Our cheese will only melt a bit in our rucksacks.
This sort of brings us to the wardrobe department, which is one more thing I did want to mention.
Yeah. Let's do the wardrobe department, and then let's talk about our thinking around how you manage regulars, and then we'll wrap up.
So yes, wardrobe. This is a cast management situation more than anything else.
Yeah.
We have face
Yes.
characters. We also have maintenance and sort of front of house roles.
Yes.
You want people to be able to distinguish these at a glance.
Yeah.
You also want them to be able to be part of the fun.
Yes. You want some kind of signal that says, I work here. I am not one of the named characters who you can roleplay with who has plot. You can ask me questions like, where's the toilets? Or, I have lost my 4-year-old. Do you know where they might be? But you kind of want them also to fit with the aesthetic. They don't want to stand out, but you want to be able to find them when you need them.
My suggestion for this is little jerkins.
Yeah.
Little authentically oldie worldy fantasy world looking jerkins that are required for all of the employees of the park. These are for the people who are in universe and in the park, customer service or maintenance workers.
Yes.
If those people also wish to go to wardrobe and put on some cat ears or a cloak,
They can.
that is completely within their rights. If
Right.
they want to be human Steve, who works at Whimsy Park, that is within their
Right.
rights.
Right. I am Rachel the plumber. I am portraying today the role of Rachel the plumber with cat ears.
Exactly. For face characters, so that's the characters who are named characters in universe portrayed by
Whose
actors.
job on the park is to be actors and roleplay rather than to be crew.
Yes, and there is a little bit of overlap sometimes, but not a huge amount, just for clarity's sake. 2 things. 1, they do not have little jackets. What they instead have is a glowing token, which we explains prevents the wards from locking you out at night. This is stolen directly from Evermore because I think it's the smartest thing they ever did with their staff.
A good idea.
The bar was low.
A visual indicator of I am a non-player character who is here to be interacted with is a brilliant plan. They do it in video games for a reason. In video games, you have a flag on the characters you can interact with. They've got a little dingly thing over their head that says, I have quests, and I'm not set dressing.
We also have one other thing that the face characters will be doing, which is still doing chores and maintenance, because nothing adds to the immersive feel of an environment like Jim, the friendly Cyclops, don't know why that's the first fantasy character that came into my head, doing a bread delivery at the restaurant. If you are a face character, you will have chores.
Yeah.
Because it adds to the fabric of the material reality.
Yeah. Toaster the wizard, who works in the library, genuinely is reshelving the books. I'm assuming this is Toaster spelt like the town. Doesn't come across very well in an audio medium, but like Toaster the wizard is my
I love
OC
Toaster
now.
the wizard. I love him.
For those not in the know, it's spelt Towcester, but it is pronounced Toaster. We have stupid place names, and I embrace that.
It's up there with Morsel amongst my favourites, which is spelt mousehole.
Yeah. Toaster and Bister, a lovely pair of names for twins.
But yes, no, I like the idea so much that you can be sort of, in the restaurant, quite happily eating, and in comes an elf maiden delivering the flowers for all the tables.
Yeah.
It's just nicer that way.
It is
this
good.
ends our discussion of wardrobe.
I think there was So yeah, there's the little jackets. The face characters have like full costume, and if you are employed as crew rather than strictly as cast, you have a choice of whether to wear your little jacket and accessories or not do that.
And be human Steve.
It's optional. You can be human Steve.
In terms of making an extra effort to have a persona, you can just not do that. You can just buy milk and not interact with humans.
Yeah. So we should talk about regulars.
Yes.
Regulars for this kind of park are three things. They are an inevitability, because people come to a place where there is an ongoing story and they wish to ongoingly participate in the story. People who are wearing costume and interacting and generally adding to the entire gimmick of the place. And they are a problem.
There are several problems in a trench coat.
Regulars will monopolize your face characters, your NPCs, at any opportunity, because they will have things they want to talk about. They will expect and push for a level of depth and complexity of story that doesn't gel with one-off visitors. So they actively take away from the experience of your one-off visitor in both those ways. They both take up the time of the NPC and sort of push things towards the soap opera stuff that isn't accessible as an infrequent visitor. And they will start to want to do things that aren't safe unless you supervise them, which means they want to do things that you can't let the rest of the park do, but you could let them do, but you can't set the precedent.
Yes. They also will have extensive dialogues that seem plot relevant and interesting in front of other guests, which is a safety concern in that it gives them a level of responsibility they are not trained or prepared for.
The chance of them being this is the other reason that the glowing necklaces for your cast members is a great idea. It doesn't just flag I am a potential roleplay experience, but it flags that those two adventurers sitting in the tavern having a very intense conversation about rooting out the traitors are not actually part of the park, because they're not wearing the glowy necklaces. They are doing this off their own bat. My proposal for how you deal with this is you give your regulars a clubhouse.
A clubhouse, their own plot line, a few dedicated NPCs.
Yeah, and a couple of events a year that are ticketed, specific buy-in events for your regulars to have a more intense narrative plot event which you can meaningfully influence, or at least feel like you're meaningfully influencing, along a couple of preset tracks, either of which works for next season's narrative. This is where your head of plot is working very hard. But that is a level of, we're going to be in character from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then we're going to stick around and have a bonfire and sing campfire songs for another 3 hours that your day-to-day visitor doesn't want or need.
It's very much the functional equivalent of when you have a cat that only wants to drink water it has stolen from you, so you get them a human glass.
Yeah. But you give them a clubhouse, and then entry to the clubhouse becomes the reward for completing enough of the guild quests. Like, if you rank up to level 3 in a guild, you get entry to the clubhouse. Because your occasional guest, even if by the end of the day they have decided that they are going to play the Great Wizard Toaster and join the wizards and have some glorious roleplay with a couple of NPCs, and then they go home and never come again. And that's fine. Yeah. That's great. They had a good experience. But your regular, is playing a different game. So they get a clubhouse where they can roleplay with the other people who are also not just playing the Great Wizard Toaster for a day, but actually, no, they have been playing the Great Wizard Toaster for 18 months. They have come at least once a month. The Great Wizard Toaster has had an entire romance plot with another player character. The Great Wizard Toaster has helped to slay a dragon. The Great Wizard Toaster has, designs upon the kingdom, possibly, in a way that the one-off Wizard Toaster simply doesn't.
Yes, and I also think it is important that the clubhouse be genuinely fun. This isn't just a place you're sticking your regulars to hang out together. They should get perks because they are keeping your business alive.
They should, as a matter of people management, they should get a clubhouse and a couple of NPCs whose job is mostly to run the clubhouse.
Yes.
That's just a people management thing. But they also should get to do things like, an easy one is everyone else is doing, your one-off visitors are doing really basic duels with just foam swords. Your regulars get to graduate up to wooden swords, get their own dueling ring in the clubhouse for consensual wooden sword practice, get to go out to the dueling ring and be champions and do displays and performances in a way that cast kind of get to do, because you can trust them to have come along to the safety sessions because they're regulars. So you can make that a requirement, and it's worthwhile to them to do it. And then it's a genuine reward of they get to be announced, and they get to have a cool looking duel with the wooden swords that go clack in a satisfying way. And maybe throw a little bit of beanbag magic around, because they can be briefed on what the beanbag magic is and does. In a way that, again, you cannot brief your 7-year-old one-off visitor.
Exactly. And you can also give them their own quests, which are essentially park maintenance chores, which A, let them feel like part of this world that they have come to love, and B, get them rewards that you can only give to people you trust.
Yes.
Yes, we are technically asking you to do the weeding, but in exchange for doing the weeding, we will let you be part of our big ceremony for which we don't have enough actors.
Would you like to be in the parade in full costume? You would, because everyone likes to be in a... If you are the kind of person who's come in full costume, you probably would like to be in the parade.
I have to admit, I am the outlier who should not be counted in this, but...
We are going to trust you not to commit arson whilst you are in the parade. And also, yes, we do need someone to go around and collect, like, all of the dead flowers and things. And re-hide the gnomish cat. Or whatever. You know, go out into the woods and make sure none of the faces have fallen off, please. And in exchange, you can be in the cool parade in your costume.
Yeah. We will give you gameplay perks. You can have magic items that are associated with your character that give you advantages in little quests. But you only get those in exchange for helping us do some basic repair work.
Yeah. It's essentially the vibe here is, except that in addition to running a theme park, you are running... But you can run them as connected but distinguishable events. These two things can happen at the same time without necessarily being the same thing in the same place all the time. Which cuts down a lot on the problem of, I would like to engage in the gimmick of this park, but every time I go into a tavern to see if there's an NPC to talk to, they're surrounded by 6 regulars engaged in soap opera gossip.
I think also the kind of people who will be regulars at this kind of park are the kind of people who, while there obviously will be some gatekeepery types, most of them at least kind of understand that people who are A, only here for a day, or B, literally children, have a right of way in most of the park, as long as the regulars are getting perks.
Perks. We're going to give you a clubhouse, we're going to give you some NPCs who your casual visitor probably doesn't even know exist, because they're in the clubhouse most of the time. But in exchange for that, part of the social contract is that if I, as an NPC, say to you as a regular, I'll catch up with you later, I need to speak to these other people now, you'll accept that.
Yeah. Because your regular perks can be revoked if you are a pain.
We can absolutely take your wristband back off you.
No more monopolizing NPCs.
No monopolizing NPCs. A head of plot one of whose jobs is to keep the NPCs vaguely on track in terms of the quests they're giving out, but also the things they are telling the punters, the things they are writing into the world, have got that guidance from somebody who knows where the narrative is supposed to be going, and who can help to direct and contain some of the more dramatic instincts.
Yeah.
Which is hard to manage without someone whose job is to occasionally rein in the crew.
Exactly, yes. Our connection is getting worse, so shall we do our little wildcard round and wrap up?
Let's do that. Also, we've been going 2 hours already, so...
Yes.
And I want to go to bed.
It's a bonus episode, it can be long, but we are pushing it,
Yeah.
and I haven't actually had dinner.
Okay. So, big dreams. We have built Whimsy Park. We have made a success of it. We have transformed our venture capital money into an ongoing profit, and we are now building the items of our dreams. What are you doing?
Step 1. The dragon game.
The dragon game.
So this will take a little bit of explanation. You're familiar with the claw machines that you see at, like...
I am aware of the claw
Okay.
machines and of my own badness at them due to a poor depth perception.
I have terrible depth perception because I only have one working eye, but I did once get 2 cuddly toy monkeys in the same claw handful, and I've been riding that high ever since.
Amazing.
You might have seen on social media, I think they're quite popular in parts of China in shopping centres as like an advertising campaign or something. That's where I've mostly seen them. where a human person gets strapped into a sort of claw machine rig, piloted over and grabs,
You know the claw
and then gets
machine?
piloted out.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be the claw? And to be dangled from a harness over a horde of mysterious items, and you can grab whatever you can reach.
We're going to make this difficult for them. There's going to be nets, there's going to be sort of trunks which are bolted to the ground and you have to get open. There's going to be things that are inconvenient to hold in different ways. There's going to be stuff that looks like it's loose and grabbable, but when you pull it up, it's hooked to the ground. It's going to be genuinely tricky. This is the dragon's horde, and you can hear the dragon coming. Flame
You will know when
licks
you're
up
out of
that
time
wall.
because the dragon roars and flashes up on the wall and is coming to get you with his fiery
and you
fire.
have to escape the way you came in, with whatever you can hold.
Whatever you can steal from the dragon's horde.
Most of these things are essentially trinkets, but there are enough genuinely good prizes to make it worth doing, even if not just for the fun of being a claw machine.
Right. And I would do it just for the fun of being a claw machine. But it would also be very cool if sometimes inside the plastic dragon egg was like a cool tiara or something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying one made of actual precious metals, but at least one notch above spray painted plastic.
I do think it would be an absolute bit if there was like one or two genuinely impressive high value items in there.
Welcome to the Dragon's Horde. We have 96 plastic flower crowns and one PS5.
I just think it would be the funniest version of this if that was the setup. But yes, this is the dream. They're not actually that unachievable.
No. Similarly, blue sky thinking, I want catacombs.
Oh, catacombs.
Which is to say, I want to build some corridors, line them with fake bones, and then bury them in dirt.
Achievable.
Right. It costs some money. It is not a day one build.
No.
But we could have catacombs.
We could.
And then we could do ghost tours of the catacombs.
Mermaids, right? All you actually need for a mermaid performer to do their thing is a tank which the mermaid performer can get out of safely in an emergency. Because the mermaid performers, generally speaking, cannot actually breathe underwater and need to be able to escape if things go wrong. But they will do their own makeup and costume and everything. You just have to provide a safe environment. A lot of them even bring their own tanks.
Right, I mean, they're mermaid performers because they have the mermaid costume.
Yeah.
And then they will just come and be mermaids. And
you can show people your actual mermaid. What is more whimsy than actual mermaid?
Right. And Evermore did do a very good job with the mermaid in a wheelchair look. So even when you don't have a tank, or even when you don't have somebody capable of being in the tank, you could have a mermaid. Our connection has gone really bad.
Yes, we are wrapping up because we just keep losing each other.
Yeah. Extremely rapid fire. Model village.
Model village. Yes, we talked about this in the main episode. I stand by it. Train.
Miniature train. Like, train good, miniature train better.
Little miniature train. All we need.
Yep. Pirate ship, like, whatchamacallit? Adventure playground.
Oh, yes.
Pirate ship combination, like climbing frame, there's rigging nets you can climb up, there's those
very
weird
specifically,
swings.
I mentioned earlier the Diana Memorial Playground. The Diana Memorial Playground is also well known for having a pirate ship that looks like a death trap, and to small children feels like a death trap, and it's only with the rational thinking of an adult you notice that the rigging is strategically placed, so whenever you fall from a high point, you always land on rigging.
Right. Want one of
this
those.
is what children want. They want to think they could die at any moment, but the parents want that to not actually happen.
Right.
You got to walk that line. Speaking of the Diana Memorial Playground, I have several things from there I would like to steal, because that was my childhood. Musical floor.
Yes.
With the big metal things you step on. The metal... They're not called drums. They're round things that make like the soft chiming noise. I think they're from somewhere in Polynesia, I want to say. Them things. And also the Teepee Village.
The what village?
There's one of these in the Diana Memorial Playground, and I don't know what intrigues children so much about just a semicircle of tents facing each other, where they can have sort of factional wars.
It is the nature of children to have civil wars and invent rituals.
Yes, all you need to give them is a little circle of teepees, and they will quite happily create societies.
Yes. Relatedly, like a little miniature Mott and Bailey fort that you can attack.
This is also really good for like school groups and birthday parties. You can just
Fantastic for
set
school
them up.
groups and birthday parties.
Just
Yeah.
set them up going, okay, you guys are the orcs, attack the castle. You guys are
Right.
the gnomes, defend the castle.
We'll be back in an hour with lunch. Enjoy.
Perfect.
Zip wire. Everyone likes a zip line.
I will say the UK has, I can't speak to other countries. I'm saying this solely off my experience in the UK. I used to work summer schools with kids. The amount of places that have a zip wire that is just a pole that you climb and then zip wire off is alarming.
Right. But zip wire, where the harness you put you in for the zip wire has got wings on it.
Absolutely.
That's
Perfect.
it. That's the pitch.
No
it's
notes.
like it's zip wire, but you get to pretend you're flying because you've got
Related,
wings.
this is pie in the sky. Rock wall, not too pie in the sky. What I
Mhm.
want, rock wall that looks like it has lava. Doesn't have to actually have lava. I'm not asking to kill people.
Oh, that's so achievable. Just like
The
glowy
illusion
plastic
of lava.
bits.
Yes, exactly.
Just
It's perfect.
softened orange plastic glow lights behind it. We can do this.
I just want a lava wall. Possibly also a separate section of rock wall with a waterfall.
Right. I mean, courting legionnaires, but I need a waterfall with a grotto behind it.
A crystal grotto.
A crystal
Achievable.
grotto behind a waterfall.
Achievable long term.
Right. We can make this happen. We can have a mirror maze pretty early on, but we can have a hedge maze when it's grown.
Also, just on the little environmental details, wishing tree. Ribbons provided at the shop.
Wishing tree, wishing well, wishing fairy. I don't know. People like
Stone
making wishes.
circle, if possible. Not
absolutely a stone circle. Not like full Stonehenge, but like a little bit of earthworks and some standing rocks.
Little, Wiltshire stone circle situation. Love it. Beautiful. No notes.
And we have said we're going to put like the creepy monk with his saint stories in the graveyard to start with, and that's correct. But long term, we do need to build him a ruined chapel.
We want a ruined chapel so much.
In life, I just want a ruined chapel.
We also want seasonal stuff. We want to put up an ice rink for Christmas.
Yeah. And a Christmas fair. And an Easter
fair. Bonfire in autumn. Easter fair.
Have a harvest festival.
Harvest festival, yes. Fun water activities in the summer. Very important in the UK. Have special things that only happen when it's raining, so people who come on a day when it rains don't feel like their day was ruined.
You need to get the special, when it's raining, the fairies do their cozy indoor picnic thing that only happens in the rain. And also you can speak to the great water dragon.
Because otherwise, approximately a third of people who come will feel like their day was ruined by the rain.
And I need listeners from other climates to understand that is not an exaggeration. All seasons are the rainy season, and there is no part of the year when it is not approximately 30% of the days are wet.
Yeah, like sometimes it's Welsh rain or drizzle rather than, pelting golf balls.
Right, the level of precipitation changes, but it does rain approximately 30% of the time year round. So we need rainy day plans. We can't just close.
Despite the fact that it rains approximately 30% of the time, there is a decent subculture of British people who believe the day has been ruined if they go outside in the rain. I don't know how they get through the week, but I haven't asked them.
And for those people, we will sell a range of whimsical umbrellas.
The most whimsical of umbrellas, like those ones that people have sometimes with the dragons from How to Train Your Dragon on them.
Right. Also, long term, I would like a petting zoo. I think I lost you again there.
No, I was just floored by your majesty. By which I mean distracted because I realised my laptop hasn't been plugged in this whole time.
Oops. Yeah, I want a petting zoo. I want, donkeys and ponies. I want sheep and goats. And
a couple
rabbits.
of exotics. I want an iguana. He's very snoozy and he has let us put little dragon wings on him.
Yes, we need an iguana with dragon wings.
I strongly dislike peacocks, but I think they're essential.
I love peacocks.
I grew up near peacocks. You develop a healthy respect for them.
Right. They're not as violent as like geese. You can let them wander the petting zoo and just bring them in
at
night.
They are absolutely as violent as geese.
They are not.
It's just
they are
they're
less
bigger
to
and people know to avoid them.
They don't attack passers-by as much.
I have been bitten by a peacock.
Were you bothering it?
I was looking for peacock feathers. I wasn't looking for them on a peacock.
That's fair. But some peacocks, they're aesthetic.
They are very aesthetic. In a dream world, I would like to add alpacas, maybe vicuñas.
Alpacas, I feel, are pretty achievable. maybe some wallabies.
Also, you mix and match this with really like long distance, like some small scale animatronics of, in addition to puppetry, which give you fantastical beasts. There should be a dragon in trees.
There should be a museum, and it should have some real fossils and some extremely fake fossils.
It should be clear to anybody who actually wants to know which is which, but you should be
Right.
able to consume them all in one as though they are sort of real.
Right. We'll give the real fossils, like, the labels will actually list when and where they were found in real places, and then the fake ones will just be like, here is a dragon wing. Look how beautiful the dragon wing is. It's from one of
Yes.
those dragons. And it won't say, found in Dorset in 1938.
There should be a little sort of potions booth where you can mix your own drinks
Yes.
out of the magical ingredients, which are mostly just
Yes.
glitter.
Yeah, it's basically all of them are hot chocolate with different colours of glitter on, but you had such a good time you won't mind. The fairy will say a blessing over your hot chocolate for you.
And also, if you've gone on the Woodland Walk or any of the lectures being delivered by the NPCs, you might have learnt about the magical ingredients which are in your hot chocolate, which really helps with cohesion.
Right, the peacock fern and its magical powers.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is key. We will have falconry displays because everyone loves a falconry display. And you can probably get an educational grant for teaching people about the owls.
You can also get like local groups in from most universities, sort of public lecture groups, etc., who will very happily just show up in your big top and do their already existing public lecture on orchids there
I have
instead of in
just
a
had
library.
the crowning idea of this whole affair.
Oh lord.
We could have a little theatrical fringe festival.
Could
We could invite people to come and do their terrible college Shakespeares.
Just the uni gymnastics scheme can come and do whatever shows they want.
We could have the jousters. They can come and visit. You could do your one-man Sondheim medleys. None of your venues will have any form of soundproofing because they will all be tents. Enjoy.
I think that is nearly everything. Have we missed anything?
I think we've covered everything that I can remember. Possibly every thought I've ever had. This has taken just 2.5 hours. I'm going to edit it minimally.
This is going to be a long list of things we think there should be.
It's just a long list of things we think would be cool in a park.
I don't know why we recorded this. This is just what we do when we get coffee together.
Right, this is just our conversation.
Wait until you guys hear about the cults we've invented.
Oh man, we have done that. We should not do bonus episode Our Proposed Cults.
I'm sorry, we absolutely should.
Listener, please weigh in on this question. Do you want to hear our proposal for cults?
There is one property that we might one day roll from the hat that will require us to talk about our cults.
Is there? Oh yeah, there is.
101.
Yeah, there is. There absolutely is. But you could also get lucky some other time, I guess. Okay.
Okay.
In conclusion, patronize your local theme parks or they will die.
Yes. Support your local businesses. Yesterday, I went to a local noodle bar where we were the only group of people there, so we were chatting, like, not loudly, but clearly audible from the kitchen. Because we were chatting about how much I like vinegar, and at the end of the night, the chef came out and just handed me a bottle of vinegar as a gift.
That was very
You don't
nice
get
of
that
him.
experience in Tesco's. You don't get that experience in Wagamama. You can only get that when you go to a tiny noodle and coffee bar that is also an Asian grocery store.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
the moral. Okay.
Patronize weird establishments.
Patronize
Go
weird
forth.
establishments and make friends with your local ferrets.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to Analysis Roulette, a podcast applying a randomly selected mode of analysis to a randomly selected creative work, just to see what happens. Your hosts have been Dia and Duck. You can find us on Spotify or on YouTube, and if you'd like to get in touch, you can send us an email at analysisroulette@gmail.com. And remember, if you like our show, share it with your friends, and if you don't like our show, share it with your enemies. Thanks.